The boardroom fell into stunned silence as Kai Thompson, the youngest chairman in the company's 80-year history, stood up and pulled Leonardo by the hand right through the heavy oak doors. Every head at the long mahogany table turned, eyes widening in disbelief while the city lights of Manhattan glittered through the floor-to-ceiling windows like distant stars that suddenly felt too close. "Gentlemen," Kai said, his voice steady but carrying the weight of 2 years of hidden dinners, late-night phone calls, and the constant fear of being found out. "I'd like you to meet Leonardo Reyes, my partner. We're getting married next spring." The words landed like a quiet explosion. No one spoke. Not the CFO who had known Kai since his first internship. Not the veteran directors who had voted him into power only 14 months earlier. They simply sat there, mouths slightly open, because Kai Thompson owned 51% of the voting shares and the bylaws he himself had rewritten last quarter made any public dissent grounds for immediate removal. Leonardo squeezed Kai's fingers once, a small gesture only they understood, the same way he had squeezed them the night they met at a quiet gallery opening in Soho where Leonardo's photographs of empty subway platforms had somehow captured everything Kai felt about his own life. Kai had built Thompson Dynamics from a struggling software firm into a billion-dollar AI powerhouse. But the real construction had happened in secret. 2 years ago he had walked into that gallery on a rainy Thursday, exhausted from another 12-hour day of pretending to be the perfect straight successor his Texas-born father still demanded. Leonardo had been standing beside a large print, explaining light and shadow to a small group, his dark hair falling across his forehead in the exact way that made Kai forget every board meeting he had ever endured. Their first conversation lasted 40 minutes. Their first kiss happened 3 weeks later on a bench in Central Park at 2 a.m. After Leonardo had dragged Kai out of the office with the simple text, "You need to remember you're human." From that night forward, their relationship existed in stolen weekends in the Hamptons, encrypted messages, and the quiet apartment in Tribeca that Kai had bought under a trust so no one could trace it. Leonardo never complained. He understood the stakes. His own parents in California still sent him articles about settling down with a nice girl. And Kai's father, retired but still chairman emeritus, called every Sunday to ask when he was going to meet the right woman. Now the secret was over. Kai watched the board members shift uncomfortably in their leather chairs, the silence stretching until the head of legal, Margaret Klein, finally cleared her throat. "Mr. Thompson, this is unexpected." Her tone was careful, almost gentle, because she knew better than to push. Kai smiled, the same calm smile he used in investor calls. "Unexpected, yes, but final. Any questions about how this affects the company can be directed to me personally. Leonardo will be joining us for the quarterly strategy session next month as my official +1. He felt Leonardo's thumb trace a small circle on the back of his hand, the only reassurance he needed. Outside the windows, the Hudson River reflected the last of the sunset, turning the water gold and reminding Kai why he had chosen this exact moment. The company's stock had never been higher. His personal fortune was secure. If they wanted to fire him, they would have to burn the entire empire down with him. And none of them were willing to do that. Not yet. The meeting ended 20 minutes later with nothing decided except the new reality. As the directors filed out, a few offered stiff nods to Leonardo, others avoided eye contact entirely. Kai waited until the room emptied before he turned to his boyfriend. "You okay?" Leonardo's laugh was soft, a little shaky. "I think I just became the most famous photographer in New York without taking a single new picture." They walked out together through the private elevator, the same one Kai had used alone for years, and the city swallowed them in its evening rush. But Kai knew the silence in that boardroom was only the beginning. His father's weekly call was due in 3 days. His best friend from college, Marcus, who had introduced him to half the current board, had already texted, "We need to talk," and somewhere in the building, someone was already dialing a reporter. Kai pulled Leonardo closer on the sidewalk, the cool October air brushing their faces. For the first time in his adult life, he was not hiding. The price of that freedom was only starting to reveal itself. Back in the Tribeca apartment that night, Leonardo poured 2 glasses of the Cabernet they had bought on their first anniversary trip to Napa. "You didn't have to do it that way," he said, handing Kai his glass. "I would have waited." Kai shook his head. "I'm 32, Leo. I've been waiting my whole life. If I wait any longer, I'm going to lose the only thing that actually matters." He set the glass down and pulled Leonardo into his arms, the city lights painting patterns across the hardwood floor. They stood like that for a long time, the weight of the day slowly lifting. But Kai could already feel the cracks forming beneath the surface. His father's voice on the phone would be ice. The tabloids would be merciless. And somewhere in the boardroom, at least one director was already calculating how to use this against him. Kai kissed the top of Leonardo's head and whispered the promise he had made to himself the night they met. "No more hiding. Whatever comes next, we face it together." The words felt brave in the quiet apartment, but the real test was only hours away. The next morning the news broke on a small tech blog, then exploded across every business site in the country. Thomson Dynamics chairman Kai Thompson comes out at board meeting, introduces fiancé. The comments sections filled with everything from support to outright hatred. Kai's phone buzzed non-stop. He silenced it and made breakfast for Leonardo, the simple act of cracking eggs feeling like an act of rebellion. Leonardo watched him from the kitchen island, eyes soft. "You're really doing this?" Kai nodded. "We're doing this." By noon, his father had left 3 voicemails. By 3 o'clock, Marcus was waiting in the lobby downstairs. Kai met him in the private conference room on the 42nd floor, the same room where they had once celebrated their first $1 million contract. Marcus looked exhausted. "What the hell, man? You could have warned me." Kai poured 2 coffees. "Would you have tried to talk me out of it?" Marcus didn't answer right away. That silence told Kai everything he needed to know. The first fracture in his oldest friendship had just appeared, and the day was only half over. Marcus finally spoke, his voice low. "Your dad called me this morning. He's flying in tomorrow. Says this is going to kill the company's reputation in Texas." Kai set his coffee down harder than he intended. "The company's reputation is fine. Our contracts are ironclad, and the AI division just signed with 3 new defense clients. This isn't about business. It's about control." Marcus rubbed his temples. "You know how he is. He still thinks the only reason you're successful is because you followed his playbook. Straight, married, kids by 35. That was the deal." Kai laughed, but there was no humor in it. "The deal expired the day I met Leonardo. I'm not playing that game anymore." They stared at each other across the table, years of shared history suddenly feeling fragile. Marcus had been the one to cover for Kai during late nights when he was really with Leonardo. He had lied to board members, joked about Kai's mysterious dates, kept the secret because he believed in the company. Now that belief was being tested. That evening Kai drove Leonardo to a quiet Italian restaurant in Brooklyn where the owner knew them as the nice couple from Manhattan and never asked questions. Over pasta and candlelight, Leonardo reached across the table. "Your father's plane lands at 10 tomorrow. You don't have to see him alone." Kai shook his head. "I do. This started with me. It ends with me." Leonardo's eyes held worry, but he nodded. They walked home along the river, the Brooklyn Bridge lit up like a promise. Back in the apartment, Kai's phone showed 37 new messages. One was from his mother, simply, "Call me when you can, sweetheart." Another was from the head of HR, asking if they needed to update the company's diversity policy. Kai ignored them all and pulled Leonardo to the couch, where they watched an old movie until the tension in his shoulders finally eased. But sleep didn't come easily. He lay awake listening to Leonardo's steady breathing and wondered how many people he would lose before this was over. The next morning Kai met his father at the private jet terminal. Robert Thompson stepped off the plane in a crisp suit, silver hair perfectly combed, eyes hard. "You've made quite the mess, son." They drove to the office in silence. In the same boardroom where Kai had made his announcement, Robert sat at the head of the table as if he still owned it. I built this company so you could have a legacy, not so you could throw it away for some photographer. Kai kept his voice even. Leonardo is not some photographer. He's the man I love. And the company is mine now. You signed the papers. Robert leaned forward. I can still call in favors. The old guard on the board, the Texas investors. They won't stand for this. Kai smiled, the same smile that had closed million-dollar deals. They already have. I made sure of it before I walked in yesterday. For the first time in his life, Kai saw something like fear flicker across his father's face. The conversation ended with Robert storming out, but the damage was done. Kai's hands shook once the door closed. He had just told his father the truth, and the world hadn't ended. Yet, that afternoon the board called an emergency session. Kai walked in with Leonardo beside him this time. The same directors who had been silent yesterday now looked openly uncomfortable. Margaret Klein spoke first. Mr. Thompson, the press is relentless. Stock dipped 2% this morning. Kai nodded. It will recover. Our numbers are stronger than ever. One of the older directors, Harold Grant, cleared his throat. This is highly irregular. The optics, Kai cut him off gently. The optics are that the chairman of Thompson Dynamics is finally living honestly. If that's a problem, the door is right there. No one moved. The silence returned, heavier this time. Leonardo sat quietly, observing everything, his presence alone a statement. After the meeting, a young VP named Sarah approached them in the hallway. For what it's worth, I think it's brave. My brother came out last year. It tore our family apart. Kai thanked her, but her words lingered. Family. That word kept coming back like a warning. Evening found Kai and Leonardo on the rooftop of their building. The city spread out below like a living map of possibilities and dangers. Leonardo wrapped a blanket around them both. You're shaking. Kai admitted it. I just told my father I'm gay in front of the entire board. I've never done anything scarier. Leonardo kissed his temple. You're not alone anymore. They stayed there until the stars came out, talking about the wedding they had only whispered about before. Small ceremony in Napa, close friends, no press. Simple vows that meant everything. But Kai knew the path to that day was now littered with landmines. His mother's text arrived at midnight. Your father is devastated. Please call him. Kai stared at the screen for a long time before replying, I love you, Mom. I'll call soon. He turned off his phone and pulled Leonardo closer. Tomorrow would bring more calls, more meetings, more tests. Tonight he would hold onto the one thing that had never been a lie. The following week brought the first real blow. A leaked photo from the board meeting appeared on a gossip site, blurry but unmistakable. Headlines screamed, Gay CEO takes over billion-dollar empire. Investors started asking questions. One major client in the defense sector requested a private call. Kai handled it calmly, reiterating the strength of their technology. But inside, the pressure was mounting. Marcus stopped returning texts. Kai's college roommate, the one person he thought would understand, sent a single message, I need time. Leonardo noticed the change. You're carrying the whole world again. Kai tried to smile. Just the parts that matter. But late at night, when Leonardo slept, Kai sat on the balcony replaying every decision that had led to this moment. The gallery, the first kiss, the decision to come out. Each one felt right, yet each one had cost him something irreplaceable. He wondered how much more he could lose before he broke. The defense client meeting happened on a rainy Thursday. Kai walked into the sleek conference room alone, Leonardo waiting downstairs in the lobby cafe. The two executives across the table were polite but direct. We admire your courage, Mr. Thompson. However, our board has concerns about public perception. Kai leaned forward. Our AI platform is the best in the industry. Perception doesn't change code. They nodded, but the contract renewal was suddenly under review. Kai left the meeting with a knot in his stomach. Downstairs, Leonardo greeted him with a quiet hug. Bad. Kai shrugged. Survivable. They walked through the rain to a small bookstore where Leonardo bought him a collection of poetry. For the nights when the world gets too loud, he said. Kai held the book like a lifeline. That night his mother called. Her voice was tired. Your father won't speak to me about it. He sits in his study staring at old photos. Kai closed his eyes. I'm sorry, Mom, she sighed. I always knew, you know. A mother knows. I just hoped it would be easier for you. The conversation ended with her promise to visit next month. Kai hung up and found Leonardo cooking pasta, humming softly. The normalcy of the scene almost broke him. He wrapped his arms around Leonardo from behind. Thank you for staying. Leonardo turned, sauce spoon in hand. Where else would I be? They ate on the couch, talking about everything except the company. For a few hours, the world outside disappeared. The next morning brought the second fracture. Marcus showed up at the apartment unannounced. I need to say this in person. Kai let him in. Leonardo stayed in the bedroom, giving them space. Marcus paced the living room. I've lost 2 major accounts because of this. Clients who were friends. They think I knew and covered for you. Kai felt the anger rise. You did know. And you covered because you're my friend. Marcus stopped pacing. I thought I was helping the company, not enabling a lie that could destroy it. The words landed hard. Kai stepped closer. This isn't a lie. This is my life. Marcus looked at him for a long moment. I don't know if I can keep pretending everything is fine. He left without another word. Kai stood in the empty room, the silence louder than any boardroom. Leonardo came out quietly. He'll come around. Kai wasn't sure. The first real betrayal from someone he trusted had just happened, and it hurt more than any stock dip. The company's quarterly earnings call was scheduled for the following week. Kai prepared with his usual precision, but the questions from analysts were different this time. How will the personal announcement affect investor confidence? He answered everyone with facts and figures. The stock rebounded slightly. After the call, Sarah from HR stopped by his office. The employee resource group wants to host a lunch for you and Leonardo. No pressure. Kai smiled for the first time in days. Tell them yes. Small victories mattered now. That evening he and Leonardo attended a quiet gallery opening where Leonardo's new series was being shown. The photographs captured empty city streets at dawn, each one somehow hopeful. A critic approached them. Your work has a new depth, Mr. Reyes. Love looks good on you. Leonardo blushed. Kai felt proud in a way he had never allowed himself before. But the calm didn't last. On Sunday his father called. I'm coming back to New York. We need to talk about the future of the company. Kai agreed to meet at the family brownstone on the Upper East Side, a place he had avoided for months. Leonardo offered to come. No, Kai said gently. This one I have to do alone. The brownstone smelled of old wood and regret. His father waited in the study, surrounded by photos of Kai as a child, all of them showing a boy who was supposed to grow up straight and powerful. You're throwing away everything I built, Robert said without greeting. Kai sat down. I'm building something better. For both of us. The argument lasted 2 hours. Accusations flew. Tears were shed. In the end, Robert said the words Kai had feared most. If you go through with this wedding, you're no longer my son. The door closed behind Kai with a finality that echoed down the hallway. He walked home through Central Park, the same path he and Leonardo had taken on their first date, and cried for the first time since the board meeting. Leonardo was waiting with tea and a blanket. They didn't speak for a long time, just held each other. Kai finally whispered, He disowned me. Leonardo kissed his forehead. Then we build our own family. The words were simple, but they planted a seed. The next day Kai made a decision. He called his lawyer and started the paperwork to create a new foundation in Leonardo's name for LGBTQ artists. It was a quiet act of defiance and love. When he told Leonardo that night, the look on his boyfriend's face made every painful conversation worth it. They made love slowly, tenderly, the kind of connection that needed no words. Afterward, lying in the dark, Kai realized something important. The losses were real, but the freedom was realer. He was no longer performing for anyone. He was simply himself. The board meeting the following week was different. Several directors approached Leonardo personally to shake his hand. Margaret Klein pulled Kai aside. The Texas investors are still grumbling, but the numbers don't lie. You're doing something right. Kai thanked her. On the way out, he and Leonardo stopped at the rooftop garden the company had installed last year. The city stretched below them, endless and full of possibility. "Remember the night I brought you here after hours?" Leonardo asked. Kai nodded. "I told you I was scared to lose everything." Leonardo smiled. "And I told you some things are worth losing everything for." They kissed under the same skyline that had witnessed his announcement. The moment felt like a turning point, but Kai knew the real test was still coming. A major investor was flying in from London next month, and rumors said he was not pleased. Kai pushed the thought away. Tonight belonged to them. The London investor, Sir Reginald Hawthorne, arrived with an entourage and a reputation for conservative values. The meeting was set for Friday at the company's main conference center. Kai spent the week preparing data, projections, everything that proved the company was stronger than ever. Leonardo helped by staying late at the office, organizing notes, making sure Kai ate. "You're not alone in this fight," he reminded him every night. On Thursday evening, they took a walk along the High Line, the elevated park quiet in the autumn chill. Leonardo stopped at a bench where they had shared their first public kiss months earlier, hidden from the world. "Whatever happens tomorrow, I'm proud of you." Kai pulled him close, the city lights twinkling around them like quiet applause. The meeting began at 9 sharp. Sir Reginald sat at the head of the table, his expression unreadable. Kai presented the quarterly results first, then the 5-year growth plan. The numbers were flawless. When the presentation ended, Sir Reginald removed his glasses. "Impressive, Mr. Thompson. However, my partners and I have concerns about leadership stability in light of recent personal decisions." The room went still. Kai met his gaze. "My personal life has no bearing on the technology we deliver. Our clients care about results, not who I love." Sir Reginald leaned back. "Some clients do care, and some investors do." The words hung in the air. Kai felt the old fear rise, but he pushed it down. "Then those investors are free to leave. Thompson Dynamics will continue without them." The statement was bold. Several board members shifted uncomfortably. Sir Reginald studied him for a long moment, then nodded once. "We shall see." The meeting ended without a decision, but the tension remained. That afternoon Kai received a call from his mother. "Your father saw the coverage of the London meeting. He's not speaking to anyone." Kai closed his office door. "Mom, I can't keep apologizing for who I am." She was quiet. "I know. I just wish he could see the man you've become." The conversation left Kai drained. Leonardo found him staring out the window. "Come home early. I have a surprise." The surprise turned out to be a home-cooked dinner and tickets to a Broadway show they had both wanted to see. They laughed through the musical, hands linked in the dark theater. For 3 hours, the outside world disappeared. Walking home afterward, Kai realized how much he had missed simple joy. The next morning, the London investors sent a polite email requesting more time. Kai replied with confidence. Inside, he wondered how long he could keep winning battles while losing pieces of his past. 2 weeks later, the first real betrayal came from inside the company. An anonymous source leaked internal emails to the press, emails where a senior director had questioned Kai's judgment after the announcement. The story ran on the front page of a major business daily. The board called an emergency session. Kai walked in knowing exactly who had leaked the emails. Harold Grant, the same director who had spoken against the optics weeks earlier. Kai presented evidence quietly, a trail of digital footprints that pointed directly to Harold's assistant. The room erupted. Harold denied everything until Kai played the recorded phone call where Harold had instructed the leak. The silence that followed was different this time. It was the sound of power shifting permanently. Harold was asked to resign immediately. As he gathered his things, he looked at Kai with pure hatred. "You've destroyed this company." Kai replied calmly, "No, I saved it from people like you." The board voted unanimously to support Kai's leadership. For the first time, he felt the weight lift slightly. That night, he and Leonardo celebrated quietly at home. They danced in the living room to an old song, "The City Lights Their Only Witness." Leonardo rested his head on Kai's shoulder. "You did it. You faced them all." Kai whispered, "We did it." But the victory was bittersweet. Marcus finally replied to his texts with a short message. "I'm sorry. I was wrong. Coffee next week." Kai stared at the screen for a long time before replying yes. Forgiveness would take time, but it was a start. His mother booked a flight for the following month. Small steps toward healing. The Foundation for LGBTQ Artists was officially launched, and the first grant went to a young photographer who reminded Kai of Leonardo at that age. Life was changing shape, becoming something new and stronger. Yet the biggest test was still ahead. A major industry conference in San Francisco was scheduled for December. Kai was invited as keynote speaker. The organizers had added a note. "We support your journey." Leonardo suggested they go together. "Make it official." Kai agreed. The weeks leading up to the conference were filled with preparation and quiet moments. They spent a weekend in the Hamptons, walking the beach where they had once hidden from the world. Now they walked hand in hand openly. Kai felt the shift in himself. The fear that had lived in his chest for years was slowly being replaced by something steadier. On the plane to San Francisco, Leonardo held his hand the entire flight. "Ready?" Kai smiled. "With you? Always." The conference hall was packed. Kai stood backstage, heart steady. When his name was called, he walked out to applause that felt genuine. He spoke about innovation, leadership, and the courage to be authentic. Halfway through, he gestured to the front row where Leonardo sat. "And I wouldn't be here without the man who taught me what real strength looks like." The audience rose in a standing ovation. Leonardo's eyes shone with tears. In that moment, everything Kai had risked felt worth it. The speech ended with thunderous applause. Backstage, Leonardo pulled him into a hug. "You changed everything today." Kai kissed him softly. "We changed everything." The return flight to New York felt lighter. Kai and Leonardo talked about the wedding, now only 4 months away. They wanted something intimate, maybe 50 people in a vineyard north of the city. Leonardo sketched ideas on a napkin, simple vows under string lights. Kai watched him, marveling at how far they had come. Back home, the apartment felt different, warmer. The leaked email scandal had died down, replaced by stories praising Kai's transparency. Stock prices climbed steadily. The board meetings became productive again. Even Harold's replacement, a woman named Priya Patel, brought fresh energy and open support. Kai started sleeping through the night for the first time in months. His mother arrived the week before Thanksgiving. She hugged Leonardo first, then Kai. "I'm sorry it took me so long to get here." The three of them spent the holiday cooking together, laughing over old family recipes. Robert was not mentioned. Some wounds needed more time. On Friday, Marcus joined them for dinner. The conversation was careful at first, then easier. Marcus apologized directly to Leonardo. "I was scared for my own career. That was wrong." Leonardo accepted the apology with grace. The evening ended with the four of them playing cards, the kind of normal night Kai had once thought impossible. Small pieces of his old life were returning, reshaped but intact. December brought the final major hurdle. A group of conservative shareholders threatened a proxy fight at the annual meeting in January. They wanted Kai removed. The board rallied behind him. Kai spent long hours reviewing legal documents with his team. Leonardo stayed by his side, bringing coffee and reminding him to breathe. On Christmas Eve, they decorated a small tree in the apartment. Leonardo hung an ornament they had bought on their first trip together, a tiny camera. For the memories we're still making. Kai pulled him close. Best gift I ever got is you. They exchanged presents at midnight, simple things that meant everything. The next morning they flew to California to spend a week with Leonardo's parents. The Reyes family welcomed Kai without hesitation. His mother-in-law-to-be hugged him tightly. We've been waiting for Leo to bring home someone who looks at him the way you do. The week was healing in ways Kai hadn't expected. He realized family could be chosen as well as inherited. Back in New York, the proxy fight loomed. Kai prepared a detailed presentation for all shareholders. The night before the meeting, he and Leonardo sat on the rooftop again. The city was quiet under fresh snow. Leonardo said softly, "No matter what happens tomorrow, we have each other. That's the only board that matters." Kai laughed, the sound free. "You're right." The meeting the next day was tense. Shareholders filled the auditorium. Kai spoke for 40 minutes, laying out the numbers, the growth, the vision. Then he addressed the personal attacks directly. "I will not apologize for loving who I love. If that costs me this company, so be it. But I believe you will choose progress over fear." The vote was called. When the results came in, Kai retained his position by a margin of 68%. The room erupted in applause. Outside, Leonardo waited with open arms. "You did it." Kai corrected him gently. "We did it." The following months were a blur of wedding planning and company milestones. Kai promoted Sarah to head of diversity initiatives. The foundation grew, funding 20 new artists. His father sent a single email on Valentine's Day. "I'm proud of the man you've become. Maybe one day I'll understand." Kai read it 3 times before replying with one word, "Thank you." It wasn't forgiveness yet, but it was a door opening. Leonardo's photography exhibit opened in a prestigious gallery. Kai stood beside him at the reception, proud and openly affectionate. The critics raved. Life was settling into a new rhythm, one where love was not hidden but celebrated. The wedding was set for May in a small vineyard upstate. They chose a simple ceremony under an arch of white roses. 50 close friends and family filled the seats. Kai's mother walked him down the aisle. Marcus stood as best man. When Leonardo appeared, the world narrowed to just the two of them. Vows were spoken with steady voices. "I choose you every day, in every boardroom and every quiet moment." Rings were exchanged. The kiss that followed was met with cheers. That night, dancing under the stars, Kai felt complete. The journey that had started with fear in a boardroom had led to this perfect moment. But he knew the story wasn't over. Life would still bring challenges. For now, he held his husband and let the future unfold. The honeymoon in Italy lasted 2 weeks. They explored Florence, Rome, and a quiet villa in Tuscany where no one recognized them. Mornings were spent drinking espresso on stone terraces, afternoons wandering markets, evenings talking about everything and nothing. Kai realized how much he had missed simply being present. On their last night, overlooking rolling hills, Leonardo raised a glass. "To the life we built together." Kai clinked his glass. "To never hiding again." They returned to New York renewed. The company had thrived in their absence. New contracts were signed. The board sent a congratulatory note signed by every member. Even the Texas investors had quieted. Summer brought new routines. Kai started mentoring young LGBTQ executives. Leonardo's work gained international attention. They bought a house in the suburbs with a garden where they could imagine raising children one day. Kai's father visited in July. The meeting was awkward at first, then honest. "I was wrong about many things," Robert admitted. "I'm trying to do better." Kai hugged him for the first time in years. The healing was slow, but it was happening. Marcus and his wife became regular dinner guests. The circle of chosen family grew. One crisp October evening, exactly 1 year after the boardroom announcement, Kai and Leonardo stood on the same rooftop where everything had changed. The city lights glittered below, unchanged yet completely different. Kai pulled Leonardo close. "Remember the silence that day?" Leonardo smiled. "I remember the courage." They watched the sunset paint the sky gold, the same color as the first night they met. Life had tested them with misunderstandings, betrayals, family pain, and societal pressure. Each challenge had forced a decision, each decision had built strength. The man who once hid in shadows now stood openly in the light. The husband who had risked everything had gained more than he ever imagined. As the stars appeared, Kai turned to Leonardo. "We made it." Leonardo kissed him softly. "We're just getting started." The city hummed around them, full of stories like there's waiting to be told. Kai looked out over the skyline and felt a deep peace. The journey of self-discovery, love, and acceptance was never truly over, but tonight it felt beautifully complete. In the quiet, he wondered about all the men still hiding, still fighting their own boardrooms and family expectations. The thought lingered as they walked inside hand in hand. True or false? Coming out in a position of power always destroys everything you've built, or can it sometimes be the very thing that finally lets you live?